Joining us right now is former Defense and Economic Minister under Angela Merkel, KT Zu Guttenberg. KT, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning, Maria.
Well, the whole conversation this week has been about Germany and the U.S., Trump versus Merkel. I want to ask you about the relationship, what happened this past week. But first, your thoughts in terms of pulling the U.S. out of the climate accord. What does this mean for foreign relations?
I think it will weaken the U.S.'s position on the international stage. And we have seen already that there was quite some pushback from the G7 partners to that very thought that he might withdraw the U.S. from the accord. And for me, if I look at foreign relations and at the question of how could you be impactful within alliances and other places, it has a lot to do also with finding compromises and not rebuffing your partners. So I think the reactions will be harsh from the other side of the Atlantic. And I fear that we might spiral into further tensions also on other topics. And that actually doesn't help anyone.
What do you think went on this past week during the NATO meetings? Tensions between the U.S. and Germany obviously heating up following the president's first overseas trip as commander-in-chief. This is what the president tweeted out yesterday, quote, "We have a massive trade deficit with Germany, plus they pay far less than they should on NATO and military. Very bad for the U.S. This will change." What do you think happened last week?
I think he missed the opportunity to actually negotiate a point where he has a point. And he has already gained some confirmation from the German side regarding the trade surplus, because it was for Germany for many years a no-go even to negotiate it. And suddenly even Angela Merkel's Cerberus, Wolfgang Schäuble, said, okay, we do have a problem here. So that was a first step towards it. The same with the NATO commitment of Germany, which was a shame for many, many years. So Angela Merkel stepped up and said, okay, we are willing to deliver. But then he's stepping in an election year, and he's actually becoming her best campaign manager right now, because the one thing she does now, she's stepping up in a beer tent and saying, well, this is about reliability from our partners, and she's gaining support from the German public for that, which does not play into anyone's advantage on both sides of the Atlantic. So if he would have kept a little bit more on the pathway of, I heard your message, you're going to deliver, let's wait until this election is over, because now he's causing the opposite. Now he's exactly causing the opposite. The Germans will say, do we have to deliver if we are constantly being bashed for something we were actually willing to do? I don't think that move is very intelligent.
In terms of Germany's position on climate change, though, that Angela Merkel and what they've done in terms of just pouring hundreds of billions of dollars into solar energy and wind energy, it's put a stranglehold on the German economy. In fact, which the Wall Street Journal editorial page pointed out earlier, Der Spiegel, the publication, said electricity is now a luxury good in Germany because costs have soared so much because of the imbalance and the push toward green energy. So why would Donald Trump want the same for the United States?
It's not about asking for having the same. It's about reaching goals. It's about reaching common goals. And I would approve to your point here. The energy transition in Germany was not an entire success. There was a lot of white paste and other things. So it is about, do we come at the end of the day to an agreement how to tackle things that many still over here would see as a hoax, but climate change is taking place? Or do we actually have everyone fighting for his own goals and nothing else? And I fear that this is something where we will see more struggles and other things coming up on other topics, because it would be put on the same way, and that would be a shame.
I guess one other question might be, because we're talking about honoring international commitments and agreements, NATO members did commit to spend 2% of GDP on military spending, what, 10 years ago? It's been quite some time, and Germany is well short of that number at this point. Does the president have a point in pressing that question to Merkel or to anyone else? Isn't that a fair criticism?
It is a fair criticism, and I said it again and again, even on this show here. At this show, I said it again and again.
To talk about this.
But the question is of how do you come to success with that? So he got already an answer from the Chancellor and others, we will deliver. That's something I haven't heard for many, many years coming out of the mouth of a German. But if you then go to Brussels, and if you're then standing in front of a new 9/11 memorial, which stands for the first commitment to Article 5 by the other member states helping the U.S. after 9/11, committing the lives of young soldiers as well and other things, and then you even scratch the Article 5 commitment out of your speech, and then again you ask the other members to step up with it? What do you expect from someone campaigning at home right now? She's under pressure now. She says, okay, she was already on this way.
So you think he went too far then?
I think he really went too far.
So, Katie, why hasn't Germany spent 2% of their GDP? I mean, they've been growing. They've done really well. They're the economic locomotive of Europe. They've benefited from a weaker euro. So I just don't know what has been the impasse. What has prevented Germany from contributing and holding up their obligations?
The first thing that needed to happen was, and I started that, a reform of the armed forces from a pure conscription-based armed forces, more or less still in the realm of the Cold War, into a professional army that is ready to deploy, that is ready to also be a part of a German understanding that we are willing to go into out-of-area missions, which we did, and to also combine it with all the efforts where we are doing more than more or less any other country in the world, with foreign aid, with foreign policy means we're putting in.
Our significant bases there.
So my proposal would be, instead of constantly pushing the 2% goal, why don't we ask every single member state to 3%, to offer 3%, which also encompass foreign policy means, development aid means, and other things, but also stepping up this. The problem with European commitment is always, if you ask for 2% in every single European member state, you don't ask for a functioning European part of NATO, because everyone has its navy, everyone has its air force, and there are duplications all over the place. So it doesn't lead us to a functioning, effective armed forces structure in Europe that would actually complement the U.S. That would be way more creative than what we're asking for right now.
So what does this mean for the relations? What's the impact of a rocky start to Germany-U.S. relations with this new president?
I don't give up on both finding common grounds, and I would also not give up on Angela Merkel's emotional commitment to the transatlantic relationship. She is usually as cool as a dog's mouth, as we usually say, or nose, or whatever. This is a German saying. But when it comes to the U.S., she's emotional, and she wants to keep the transatlantic relations as positive as anyhow possible. But we have to play it from both sides.
Cool as a dog's nose.
We say cool as a cucumber over here.
A little different.
A little different. Transatlantic difference, no big deal.
There are instances when cool is not good, like a relationship between two staunch allies.
Yeah. You don't want to be cool as a dog's nose in that regard. KT, good stuff. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Good to see you. KT Zu Guttenberg there.